All right, everybody, it is now Sunday. Merry Christmas, by the way. Happy holidays, whatever you guys celebrate. Hopefully it was an awesome one. But my car has been stuck here since Thursday. Now, the snow just cleared up literally as of a few hours ago, and before that there was inches of snow. If you guys check my Instagram out, I'll leave it linked down in the description below. You can see just how much snow there was and how stuck my car was. But now we should hopefully be able to get out, so let's go ahead and give it a go. Man, I don't know if this picks up on GoPro, but my car is so salty right now. I have to get a car wash today. Like, this is not good. Sure, that's the first time you guys have heard a cold start on this solo performance as well, and it sounds pretty good, I'm not gonna lie. So I just got turned around. I didn't record it, but it was kind of easy getting out of the mud right here. I don't know if you guys can see it, but I slung mud absolutely everywhere. Like, my car is a mess right now, man. I think the first goal of today's video, before we get into anything else, is it's time to go get a car wash, man. My car, as I'll show you guys here in just a second, it is just filthy and disgusting. So yeah, let's go ahead and head to the car wash, get this thing cleaned up, and then we'll get to the fun stuff. So hopefully this picks up on camera, but here's a little bit of what the car looks like before the car wash. It is just absolutely filthy, man. Oh my god, it hurts to see. Yeah, she's seen better days, that's for sure, man. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to hold out on the car wash. Actually, there's literally like 20 people here in line. I don't really feel like waiting in that line right now, but trust me, I'm gonna get the car clean. I'm not gonna let this all destroy it, I promise. But I guess with that being said, since we can't get a car wash, let's just go ahead and jump into this video. All right, everybody, so as you guys already know by the title and the thumbnail, today I'm going to be talking about mistakes I've made with my Genesis Coupe. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I've made quite a few mistakes, nothing absolutely insane that's like risking breaking the car or anything like that, but this was my first sports car I've ever owned. This is the first car that I've ever done any mods to, and since owning this thing, I've learned a lot about these cars. So today I'm gonna share with you guys what I've done wrong with this car and how you can avoid doing those things, and pretty much just what not to do with your Genesis Coupe. So the first thing that you should not do with your Genesis Coupe. Now, I'm gonna keep this one pretty brief because I'm pretty sure most of you guys probably already know this, but like I said, this was my first sports car. This was my first car that I've ever done any mods to. Basically my first car that I've really cared about. And the first thing you should not do is rev your car while it's cold. Now, I know that might seem stupid, but when I first got this car, man, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, I would just start it and rev it just to show people what it sounded like. Like, I did not pay any attention to how cold the oil temperature was, how cold the engine was. I did not pay any attention to anything like that, and I used to just rev it up to rev it up. Now, obviously, now I know that that can damage the engine, and that is not good. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep it short, sweet, and simple with that one. Don't rev your car while it's cold. Now, moving on to the second mistake that I've made with my Genesis Coupe, and that has to do with the wheels. For those of you guys who don't know, these are ESR RF2 wheels. I absolutely love these wheels. They look so clean. The spokes are skinny how I like them, so you can see the caliper and the rotor back there, and it just looks so good, man. But if you decide to get wheels on this car, make sure that you get the right size, or just make sure that you get Hub-Centric Rings. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what Hub-Centric Rings are, basically all they do is once you have aftermarket wheels, the wheel is no longer centered on the hub. The wheel is now centered on the lug nuts or the bolts itself. And pretty much all that means is, worst case scenario, your wheel could just fall off while you're driving. You just got to check your lug nuts every once in a while, pretty much every time you fill up the car on gas. Make sure they're still tight, make sure your wheel's not about to fall off. But also, another major drawback of not having Hub-Centric Rings is the car will not necessarily drive in a straight line, kind of like it feels like it needs a line, but it really doesn't. It just needs Hub-Centric Rings. Now, to find the right size Hub-Centric Rings for your wheel, wherever you order the wheel from, it should say on the website, on the page of the wheel, like what the wheel bore is, basically. Now, the stock hub size on the Genesis Coupe is 67.1. So for instance, I believe the bore size on these ESR RF2s are 73. So that would mean that you would need to get 73 to 67.1 millimeter Hub-Centric Rings, and it should fix all your problems. Now, let's go ahead and move on to the third mistake that I've made with this car. Actually, before we move on to the third mistake, let's go ahead and hit a little full send right here. First gear, traction and stability off, get it to about 4K, and then for it. So now moving into the third mistake I made with this car, and that is get every single bolt-on mod done to this car you want to do before you tune it. Now, for those of you guys who don't know, my car is basically full bolt-on and tuned. The only thing I'm missing is a ported intake manifold and a ported throttle body. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys, I really wish I had waited to get the tune, and I wish I had gone ahead and got the ported pieces, just so I would have only had to have gotten the car tuned once. Now, if I want to add the ported throttle body and the ported intake manifold in, I'm gonna also have to pay for a retune, which is at least $250, man. This is no major mistake by any means. This is really just a small little thing, and I couldn't help it, man. I really wanted to get the car tuned for you guys and show it to everybody, but learn from this mistake. If you want to make your car actually full bolt-on, before you get it tuned, make sure you do everything that you want to do, because installing mods after your car... Now, actually, hold on, real quick. There is a difference between the custom and the can tune. I have the custom tune, and pretty much what that means is if you add any other mods or take away any mods, for the most part, anything that changes air-fuel ratio, I believe, you have to get a retune. Now, with the can tune, that's kind of just like a base tune in a way, and pretty much you can add mods, remove mods, and it doesn't really do anything to the car, but you will not get the full power benefits out of a can tune as you will the custom tune. So yeah, pretty much if you want to go with a custom tune like I have here on my Genesis Coupe, make sure you do every bolt-on mod to the car that you want to do before you get it tuned. Now, moving on to the fourth mistake that I've made with this car, and that has to do with the doors/windows when it is freezing cold outside. This car is obviously a coupe. It's in the name, Genesis Coupe, and what that means is the doors, or the windows, I guess, on the doors are frameless. So this piece right here is not connected to the door. Like, the window does not have a frame that goes around it like most cars do. And what that means is when you go to open the door, so you pull the handle and the window drops a little bit so it can clear this area right here and get out. And whenever you close it, the window goes back up, basically. So when it's freezing cold outside, or if it's wet and kind of cold outside, your windows can actually freeze shut and not open. Now, when I first got this car, I didn't think that was a big deal. And whenever they would freeze shut, I would literally just rip my door open. And that is a mistake that I will never make again, because in ripping my door open when the window won't go down, I broke this thing right here. Now, I don't know how well this is going to pick up on camera, but pretty much this thing right here is kind of busted up. It's got a crack in it right here, and it doesn't line up properly. Thankfully, it does not let water leak in. But yeah, if you slam your door shut or rip it open when your window will not drop down, you could risk damaging this piece right here, or worst of all, you could risk just shattering the whole entire window. And I got so lucky that did not happen. But yeah, make sure you watch out for that. If your door does not open, or your window, I guess, does not drop down when it's freezing cold, pretty much the best thing you can do is get a hairdryer and start trying to thaw the window out. I've heard people tell me you can dump hot water on it, but I feel like that would probably crack the window. I've also heard de-icer and some other things, but what I found works best for me is just getting a hairdryer and defrosting the window, basically. Now, before we hop into the next mistake, I think it's only fair that we bust out a full send real quick. So we'll get to about 60 and then hit it. All right, everybody. Now, moving on to the fifth mistake, this has to do with the intake. Now, as you guys can see right here, I don't have a stock intake on. I have an InGen short ram intake. It looks pretty cool, but that's about all it provides is looks, man. So pretty much what I'm getting at is keep the stock intake on your Genesis Coupe. If you really want to change it up and get an aftermarket intake, get the 3.8 performance true cold air intake. Do not waste your money on a short ram intake. It's just not worth it, man. It makes your car run warmer. It does not add any power, and it's basically a waste of money, as you guys have probably heard me say 20 times now. Now, I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering, you know, why do I still have this aftermarket intake on here if it's such a piece of crap? Well, basically, the only reason I still have this thing installed is because right here is where the stock intake had a mounting point, and I now have a catch can installed there. Now, obviously, I can move the catch can, install it somewhere over here, or just somewhere else, but I mean, everything works out pretty perfectly right now with it being installed here. And I don't really want to go through the hassle of moving that and putting the stock intake back on. I just wish I'd never got this intake in the first place, honestly. But yeah, that is really all there is here for the fifth mistake, and that is just the intake, man. Just leave your stock intake in. If you really want to get an aftermarket one, get the 3.8 performance cold air intake. Or also, I forgot to mention, you can throw a K&N drop-in filter in your stock intake, and it'll be just as good as anything else. Now, moving on to the sixth mistake, this has to do with this Carbon Creations carbon fiber spoiler here. And as you guys can see, It is very dirty right now, but it looks super, super clean, and I absolutely love how this thing changes up the back end of this car. I have the 3.8 track, so I had the stock wing on there before, but just giving it some carbon contrast just looks so good, especially with these Spec Ds having some black accents in them. But pretty much what I'm trying to say is, yeah, this spoiler looks really good, but it is not worth the $400. So for those of you guys who've been around on the channel for a while, you probably saw me install this thing quite a few months ago, and it was just a mess, man. It was an absolute pain in the ass. This thing basically had no mounting hardware, nowhere to put hardware on it. It just came with like the feet right here, the pegs that go on the car. They were literally just flat on the bottom, no holes in them, no spots to put any hardware. It was pretty much just up to you to figure out how to get this thing to stick on here. And what we ended up doing to getting this thing to stick was we just lined the bottom of the feet with 3M tape, automotive grade 3M tape, and then once it was stuck down, we sealed the edges with, I believe it was latex or maybe silicone caulk to like keep water out. And so far it's held up very well, but I mean, dude, I don't want my wing to be held on by 3M and caulk. I don't know about you guys. So pretty much what I'm trying to say is, yeah, this wing looks really good. It adds some nice contrast to the car, but it's just not worth the money. I would have rather spent, you know, $200 extra and had proper mounting hardware and just a proper way to mount the wing so I don't have to risk it flying off on the interstate at some point. Not that I necessarily think it's going to. Like, check this out. It is super sturdy. If you move the wing, the whole trunk moves, but I just don't like this thing being held on by 3M tape and caulk. Now, before we move on to the 7th mistake, I think we got to bust out another full send. All right, this spot right here is pretty good. We'll get up to about 60 right there and floor it. Oh man, that's too fast for this road. That is too fast for this road, brother. Now, the 7th mistake that I made with my Genesis Coupe, this is arguably the biggest mistake that I've made with this car, and pretty much it has to do with when I bought the car. I just wish that I had looked harder, or I wish that I'd known more about what to look for on a car to see if it's been wrecked or damaged and the dealership is trying to hide it. So for those of you guys who have no idea, I've made a whole video on this before, so I'll just touch on it right now. But pretty much when I bought this car, it had a clean Carfax. The dealership kept shoving that in my face that it had a clean Carfax. Now, I inspected the car myself, but like I said, I knew nothing about cars at the time. So really the only damage and whatnot that I found on the car was inside. Of course, the door handles were peeling apart a bit. The gunmetal was peeling off the door handles a bit. Also, the shifter right here is kind of like busted up. I don't know if you guys can see, but it's like missing some plastic right there around it. You can see down to the white. And then also there was just a few chips, like rock chips on the car here and there. Nothing too crazy, but I tried to use that against the dealership to give me a better price on the car. Unfortunately, they wouldn't, but all it really came down to was that if I had just known what to look out for on cars whenever buying one to see if it's been damaged or wrecked and the dealership is trying to hide it, I would have not had to deal with this. Now, I don't regret buying this car at all. I absolutely love this car, and like I said, I don't regret anything, but I just wish that I could have called the dealer out on them selling me a crashed car and gotten it for a better price. After I bought this car, I took it to the dealership and got a pre-purchase or a post-purchase inspection, I guess, or whatever it's called. And they were the ones who told me it's wrecked. And they were the ones who I wish I just contacted them first, honestly, and just asked what to look out for on a car, because they pointed out to me, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this because it's kind of dark out now, but basically the trunk does not line up. Like this end right here sinks down lower in, and this end over here sticks farther up. I think you can kind of see that. So that is one sign that the car has been wrecked. Also, you're not going to be able to see this right now because it's dark out, but the bumper down here has like kind of a crack in it, and it's really hard to see unless you look at it from the right angle, but nonetheless, that's some damage on the car. And then there were just a bunch of other small things here and there, nothing that like makes the car undrivable or nothing that makes the car sketchy to drive by any means. But like I said, I just wish I had known these things so I could have gotten a better deal on the car, and so I would have not gotten ripped off by a dealership. But you live and you learn, and I don't regret it. Like I said, I love this car, man. Oh yeah, and one more thing, also the front bumper up here, it just does not align properly, and those are signs that the car has been wrecked or at least just ripped apart for some reason. Probably not for a good reason, but yeah, look out for small things like that, body panels not aligning and just things not adding up, and that should be a pretty telltale sign if the car has been wrecked or not. Now, moving on to the 8th and final mistake that I made with this car, and that has to do with the aftermarket, well, used aftermarket arc downpipes that I bought for this car a few months back. So for those of you guys who don't know, I used to have arc downpipes on the car. However, after about a month of having them on, the inner piping broke loose and rattled like crazy. It was the most annoying sound ever, and it just pretty much makes the car undrivable. It makes you want to rip your hair out, dude. Now, the reason I am considering this a mistake is because now I'm at about 65,000 miles on the Genesis, and the stock downpipes are starting to go out. Now, I took the car in, we inspected it, and we're not 100% sure that it's coming from the inner piping breaking loose on the downpipes. It's either coming from that or the flex pipe, I want to say, whatever it's called, is like kind of broken loose and rattles. But pretty much right now, I know I'm slightly mentioned this not too long ago, but once I got this Solo exhaust on, I've heard some rattling. I did think it was from this Solo exhaust at first, but then, like I said, I took the car in, we inspected it, and it appears it is coming from the downpipes. Now, I'm counting this as a mistake because pretty much I just wish I'd bought a set of brand new arc downpipes instead of buying them used. Don't buy used parts unless you know who it's coming from and you know they took good care of it, because more than likely, if somebody's selling a part for a hell of a deal, they're selling it for a hell of a deal for a reason, basically, because something's more than likely broken. So yeah, I'm gonna have to get myself a new set of downpipes. I'm either gonna try and find some OEM ones. More than likely, I'll end up getting some more arc ones, and hopefully that will solve the issue. But yeah, man, that's really all there is to this 8th and final mistake. Now, that is really going to wrap it up for this video, everybody. I just wanted to share with you guys all the mistakes I've made with this car, all the things I've learned about this car, in hopes that you guys won't make the same mistakes and will learn from mine. Now, like I said, none of these mistakes were like super terrible mistakes, but they are things that I just wish I'd done differently, or wish I'd done without, basically. And like I said, hopefully you guys will be able to learn from that. But yeah, man, that is really going to wrap it up for this one. Like I said, if you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. If you guys like this video, do not forget to drop a like and subscribe. Peace out. I'll see you guys in the next one.